It's time for the real Jonathan Smith Show. This is Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? It's the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Hopefully you had a nice night last night. If you're an IU fan, you probably didn't, but let's just be honest. We just kind of expect for them to lose at this point, right? Or at least we should have. If you listened in yesterday, then you know that you should have expected for Indiana to lose that game last night. They just simply aren't very good at basketball. And yeah, it's bad. There's just no other way to really put it. They are straight up a bad basketball team. They don't shoot the ball well. They don't have a real point guard. They don't have a go-to guy in big moments. And they're in the process of falling apart, which completely and totally goes against what Mike Whitson's has been going for. You know, it's Wednesday, which means it's over the hump day.
Uh-oh, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody? Julie, hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me. Mike. What day is it, Mike? Listen, guess what today is?
It's hump day.
Woo-woo! Hump day!
Hump day in honor of Mike Whitson's relentless pursuit of getting over the hump.
You know, as a coach, I gotta get us over that hump. I gotta get them comfortable, knowing that you're gonna be in close games and you gotta make plays coming down the home stretch. I mean, in the tournament, we were right there. You know, I just didn't get them over the hump, man. And you know, that's something that I live with every day of my life.
Hump day?
Because I truly believe that was the team to really make some noise and get to the finals, and I just couldn't get them over the hump.
Just couldn't get him over the hump. Mike Whitson in the NBA couldn't get his Knicks teams over the hump. Can't get this Indiana team over the hump. And once again, he didn't get him over the hump last night. In fact, they didn't get close to the hump last night. That game wasn't close from the jump. They never stood any sort of chance at winning that basketball game. Wisconsin minus 8.5 if you grabbed it early. I think the line finished like minus 10.5. Minus 8.5 was easy. That was a you have to bet this. That's what it was. They are falling apart. We saw it last night, and I told you what was going to happen yesterday. I told you was that Indiana had absolutely no chance at winning that basketball game. Yes, we've sat back and we watched them, choke down the stretch against Maryland. But it's like, hey, Maryland's a good team, and we played them pretty close. Maybe, we're about to turn the corner. And then we saw them go on the road to Purdue, play their butts off. I mean, just compete and play hard and, do all the things that you just kind of expect for college basketball teams to do. We finally saw them do it, try to play defense, make open shots, do, all those important things. And for some reason, people expected for that to just continue, despite watching Omar Ballo lash out at Miles Rice and storm off the court like a toddler when they didn't win. They are falling apart. I told you yesterday that Trey Galloway wasn't going to play as well as he did against Purdue again. Okay? And now in 23 games this year, Trey Galloway has only scored double-digit points 9 times. He's only had back-to-back double-digit scoring games once all season. And I told you, he wasn't going to get into double digits. He didn't. He scored 9 points and wasn't very efficient in doing so. I said that Mackenzie Mbaka was due to not play well because, to his credit, Indiana's last 3 games, he played pretty well. Scored 20 points against Northwestern, and then 16 against Maryland, and then 25 against Purdue. And he did it while shooting 58% from the floor. That's a good stretch. But it wasn't going to last. Mackenzie Mbaka's been way too up and down this season for him to go out and have another game like that. And he struggled. Did he lead the Hoosiers in scoring? Yes, but he was 5 of 13 from the field for 15 points, right? And he, the last bucket he made was literally in the final seconds when the game was already over. Okay, once again, like he was their leading scorer, and he didn't play very well. Omar Ballo is just a losing player. He's a cancer to that team and to that locker room. I told you yesterday, never bet on that guy. He's Indiana's best player. He should be at least. And he's an awful leader. Awful leader. Okay, he only scored 4 points, by the way. 4 points. He throws a temper tantrum, at Myles Rice for missing that shot late against Purdue. Well, more so for taking a bad shot late against Purdue. And it's like, maybe he'll respond in a good way. Maybe he'll come out against Wisconsin and he'll just take the game over and he'll just be dominant. Absolutely not. In 27 minutes, he scored 4 points and only grabbed 6 rebounds. But he had 2 blocks, though. Yeah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. So he didn't play well. Luke Goody, Goody Two Shoes over there. Don't switch sides when we get this thing turned around. I don't think you're getting this thing turned around, buddy. He had 11 points on 4 of 12 shooting. And look, last night we saw the normal Indiana team. They didn't shoot the ball. They didn't play good defense. They were 7 of 27 from 3. That's 26% for my math majors out there. They just aren't a good basketball team. They can't shoot. They don't have a real point guard. They don't have a consistent go-to scorer. They don't play defense consistently. And you aren't going to win games against good teams like Wisconsin when you don't have those things. You aren't going to win games. And let's just be honest, this Indiana team, congratulations on another invite to the NIT, your 6th one in the last 20 years. Insane, right? Like this team is not going to make the tournament. They're 14-9. Is there still, could they make the tournament? Absolutely. They have 9 games left. 7 of those 9 games are opportunities for quad 1 wins, and the 2 that aren't are quad 2 wins. So they have opportunities going down the stretch to win some of these games and potentially play themselves into the tournament. Got to win on Saturday against Michigan. Probably need to win on Tuesday at Michigan State. Okay, if they can win 6 of their last 9, probably not going to happen given how tough this stretch is. Just listen to this. They get Michigan at home. That's a tough game. Then they go to Michigan State. I don't think they're winning that one, even though Michigan State against the better opponents in the Big Ten has struggled just a little bit. And then they get UCLA at home. And then that's on Valentine's Day. And then Sunday, or the February 23rd, they get Purdue at home. Then they get Penn State and Washington, right? Those are the 2 quad 2 games. Then they go to Oregon. That's probably a loss. And then they finish out their season with Ohio State on March 8th. Okay, so a lot of tough games left. Is there an opportunity for themselves to play themselves into the tournament? Absolutely. Will they? Absolutely not. There's not a chance that this Indiana team, that's just not very good at basketball, will make the tournament. But someone who will make the tournament and is probably competing for a number 1 seed, I don't know if they're going to be a 1 seed, but probably going to be on the 2 line, the Purdue Boilermakers, the best basketball program in the state of Indiana. And I said yesterday not to bet on Purdue, which was a mistake. They ended up covering. And to instead bet on the over, which hit. The over hit easily. All right? And the Boilermakers barely covered, right? They were 7.5 point favorites, and they won by 9. A cover's a cover, though. Good teams win, great teams cover. And Purdue is a great team. That is what they are. Indiana fans, if you want to enjoy watching good basketball, just watch Purdue play. Swallow your pride a little bit. Just admit to yourself that as of right now, you're the little brother when it comes to basketball in the state, right? It's all about Purdue. It has been for the last 20 years. They've been a better program than you have. And we saw why last night. Braden Smith, dominant. Just a dominant player after a slow start. He finished with 31 points. 31 points, 4 assists, 6 rebounds, doing a little bit of everything. Shot 11 of 15 from the field. He did whatever he wanted offensively. And as I said that he would yesterday, because this Iowa defense is so atrocious. Okay, he got wherever he wanted on the floor. Ball screen going right. He was getting to the elbow. He was making that shot. He was 5 of 7 from 3. Just absolutely lit it up. And if Iowa could play any sort of defense, then they'd be awesome because offensively they are spectacular. Drake Hoffman-Wren for Purdue, speaking of spectacular, he was also pretty great. He and Braden Smith just dominated this game. And early on, Purdue couldn't really get anything going, and it was just the Drake Hoffman-Wren show. Splitting double teams, hitting floaters, just played a beautiful, beautiful game, and it was good. Like, they needed him early because it took everyone else just a bit to get going. He finished with 25 points on 10 of 18 shooting. And Braden Smith and Drake Hoffman-Wren. Indiana hasn't had guys like that since I don't know when. Guys who just consistently, when you need a bucket, you can go to one of those two. They haven't had one guy like that. Like, sure, Jalen Hood-Schifino was good for these different stretches, and Trace Jackson-Davis was a good player, but nothing to the level of Drake Hoffman-Wren and Braden Smith. Okay, Purdue's two best players actually played like it. And that's the thing with Indiana. That's so frustrating. Indiana's two best players never play like it. Mackenzie Mbako and Omar Ballo should be the two best players on just about every single floor that they step out onto. They're big. They're both skilled. Omar Ballo's athletic despite being very out of shape. But Indiana's two best players never play like their two best players. Meanwhile, Purdue's, they do. And they do, Matt Painter does an excellent job of making sure that those guys get the ball where they need it. But, that is the biggest difference between Purdue and Indiana. Purdue's best players consistently play like they're the best players on the floor, and Indiana's don't. Okay? And it's part of why Purdue won last night. It's a large part of why Purdue won last night. Braden Smith and Drake Hoffman-Wren consistently got buckets when they needed to. And I told you that Iowa was going to score a ton of points. It's very rare in college basketball to need all 90 points that you scored, and Purdue needed all of them last night. Okay? Once again, Drake Hoffman-Wren was great early. Braden Smith brought it home late. The difference in the game last night for Purdue and Iowa was the fact that Purdue knows how to play defense. And you say, well, Jonathan, they gave up 81 points. True. That's not really what I'm referring to here. Purdue committed 5 less fouls than Iowa. They shot 7 more free throws than Iowa, and they outscored them by 8 from the foul line. That was the difference. They won by 9. The fact that they made free throws and they defended without fouling. Pretty impressive. It's impressive. Like, that's what that Purdue team is. They're just impressive. They're tough. They play incredibly hard. The 3 guards that they're rotating between CJ Cox, Jakari Harris, and Myles Colvin, even though Myles Colvin's minutes go down, they just go down more and more every game that he plays. Like, those 3 guys rotating in are just awesome. Like, they get it. They understand what their role is. They know that they're there to play great defense. That is what CJ Cox is doing. That's what Jakari Harris is doing. That's what Myles Colvin is trying to do. Like, they understand that they are out there not to score, but to wreak havoc on the defensive end, force turnovers, and play good defense. And all 3 of them, especially CJ Cox and Jakari Harris, they are doing that. And that's the other thing with Indiana. I don't think these guys understand what their roles are. And it feels like their roles change every single game. It does. Like, there are some nights where Luke Goody takes 5 shots and he's just kind of posted up in the corner. Last night, they tried to run offense through Luke Goody. Like, what in the world? And then there are some games where they're playing through Ballo on the low block. And, he's scoring because he's 5 feet away from the bucket and he's huge. And then there's some nights where it's a lot of Myles Rice screen and roll. Let's see if he can get downhill and create. We've seen less and less of that as of late, even though he played 30 minutes last night. And then there are games where Trey Galloway is the primary ball handler, and they got Myles Rice playing off the ball a little bit more. Like, I don't think that those guys understand what their role is on a night in, night out basis. And then you look at Purdue, and it's the total opposite. Like, I can tell you what Purdue's going to do every single game. I can. I know Drake Hoffman-Wren is going to get the ball on the block a lot. And if he's not going to get it on the block, then he's probably setting a ball screen for Braden Smith going to his right. And I know that Braden Smith is going to have the ball in his hands for like 85% of the time. He played the whole game last night, once again. Okay? he's going to be awesome. Or excuse me, he's going to be awesome every single night because he has the ball in his hands that much. All right, and I know that he's supposed to score 20 plus, and I know that when guys are open, he's going to make the right play. I know that with him. I know that Fletcher Lawyer's job is to run off screens, and shoot the basketball well. And Fletcher Lawyer knows that. Caleb First knows that his job is to rebound and do his best to protect the rim. CJ Cox knows that his role is to just play great defense, and if he has an opportunity to score, then, go right on ahead and do that. Roles are defined for them. For Indiana, I don't think that they are, and I think that that's just another reason why they aren't as good of a basketball team as Purdue. Simple as that. Breaking news. The NBA trade deadline is tomorrow at 3:00, so we're going to have trades coming in throughout the day. The Milwaukee Bucks are trading Chris Middleton, A.J. Johnson, and a pick swap to the Wizards for Kyle Kuzma, Patrick Baldwin Jr., and second-round draft compensation. Good news, fellas. The Bucks just got worse. Bringing in a child and Kyle Kuzma, who, but he won a title in L.A. and was like, that's great. I'm going to go get numbers in Milwaukee. That's childlike behavior. That's what it is. He's not a good defender. He can shoot it a little bit, but they got worse. Congratulations to the Indiana Pacers for that. So when we come back here in about 4 minutes or so, the Colts, man, I got thoughts on the Colts. Michael Pittman Jr., he's at the Super Bowl. Some indie media caught up with him yesterday, and they were talking to him about Anthony Richardson's offseason and, how much faith they have in him to develop. And, Michael Pittman Jr. kind of recaps the season, and it's interesting. And I've got thoughts on what Michael Pittman Jr. had to say about Anthony Richardson and this offseason. I'll play that audio for you when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
The best takes, stories, and entertainment. It's The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket. 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
The Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Tickets. Big show today. Just a ton of stuff to get to. We just talked a little IU and Purdue. IU sucks. Purdue's a pretty good basketball team. Are they good enough to win a national title? Absolutely not, but they're pretty good. We're going to talk a little Colts, Super Bowl, all those things. Kevin Potts is set to join the show coming up here at 11 o'clock, where we're going to get into the Super Bowl. He is a 49ers fan, so we're going to talk a little bit of Dre Greenlaw as well, who's apparently favored to sign with the Colts this offseason. Thanks for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, it's free, by the way. You can also watch on Twitter, __ Jonathan Smith, if you want to follow me there, at Ticket1430. If you want to follow the station for all the updates on my show and Dan's show. And you can also download that Indy Sports Ticket app wherever you get your apps. Michael Pittman Jr., he's at the Super Bowl. Lucky him. I wish I could be at the Super Bowl. I got to be honest. I'm jealous of Dan. He's doing a show from there today, and I'm stuck here in Indianapolis. Love Indianapolis, but I don't know. Never been to NOLA. Would love to go to NOLA one day, though. But anyway, Michael Pittman Jr., he's down there in NOLA, and some local Indianapolis media caught up with him to talk to him a little bit about Anthony Richardson this upcoming offseason and what he kind of expects from Anthony Richardson going forward.
AR, I feel like, is taking the right steps, like he's working with people that he thinks are going to help him get to that next level. And, like everything that happened throughout the season, I mean, I felt like he handled everything great, right? Because at times it felt like everybody was throwing shots at him. I mean, like, he's such like a young guy, but the way that he handled that with his professionalism, how he showed up every single day, he didn't sulk, and he showed up and worked. And those are the kind of things that keep me hopeful for him, that I think we're going to see improvement in him, because one, he's just, I mean, like, he wants to be that guy that he knows that he can be, and that guy that all of us know that he can be.
Michael Pittman Jr. right there talking about Anthony Richardson in the offseason and kind of what he expects. He expects for Anthony Richardson to work hard because he's working with Chris Hess, who Anthony Richardson thinks is going to help him. And, he learned and he grew from all the crap that happened during the season, the suspension and the helmet tap out and the backlash that he got from that, all that stuff. Michael Pittman Jr. gives a pretty nice synopsis of the season there in that clip. And, I think that the biggest thing to think about when it comes to Anthony Richardson and the evolution from the start of the season to hopefully the start of this next season is he just didn't get it. For some reason, he didn't understand what it took to play quarterback in the NFL. Why it wasn't established his rookie year, I don't know. But he gets benched because he wasn't preparing properly and all those things. So he sits out for 2 games, comes back. To his credit, he plays better. We get that game against the Jets, the best game of his career. Completes 67% of his passes, hitting short routes, deep routes. He ends up leading the Colts down the field, scoring a game-winning touchdown, right? Just an incredible game from him, and it's like, oh, crap, maybe he figured it out. And, fast forward to the game against the Patriots. It was ugly, but he figured out a way to win. And there were some good signs after he got benched. And it's for all of the reasons that Michael Pittman Jr. mentioned. Okay, I'm sure he learned quite a bit throughout that time, and people, trashing him and doing all those things. But no one wants to suck at anything. Getting benched is the worst experience ever. Never happened to me, but I couldn't imagine how badly that would have just ripped my soul out. And Anthony Richardson wants to be good because no one wants to be bad at anything. So he started to show up early and do all the things that we expect for starting quarterbacks in the NFL to do. There's a difference, though, between the regular season and the offseason. It's much easier to be actively engaged during the regular season because you're around your teammates. It's easier to be motivated when you have people holding you accountable. When you know that if you don't come in early, everyone's going to notice. Okay, when you know that if you don't come in early and if you don't prepare properly, it's going to result in getting your butt chewed out and benched. It's easier to do what you're supposed to do when there are other people watching, when you have your teammates around and encouraging you to do the right things. It's easier to do what you're supposed to do. And it's just not like that in the offseason. There's no Nelson yelling at you if you're not doing your job properly. You're on your own in the offseason. Like I'm sure Anthony Richardson's probably in Florida, staying, with his parents, hanging out with his, he's got a younger brother apparently, hanging out with them, doing all that kind of stuff. Like I firmly believe that if everyone worked in the offseason as hard as they do during the season, during training camp and all these things, then everyone would come back a better player. Because when you know that coaches are watching you go through drills and you're able to, watch your competition for that starting spot, go through the work as well, and you know that you're competing against them, it just makes it easier to raise your work ethic. When you're on your own in the offseason, like you don't get that. You're working by yourself. And I so badly want to believe that Anthony Richardson is going to come back as a greatly improved player. Like Michael Pittman Jr. appears to believe that. But we just haven't seen enough from him to think that he's going to do that. Look, whenever guys go through the draft process, they're always asked about how much they love football and if they have any other interest other than football. And look, I want guys who only care about football. Like those are the kind of guys that I would want, because those are the kind of guys that hit the off season and they work out a ton. And if they're a quarterback, then they throw 500 balls a day and they do all those important things. And it's the guys with other interests who are more inclined not to do that. And I think last offseason, even his rookie season, Anthony Richardson cared more about playing basketball and rapping than he did playing football. And that's a huge red flag when it comes to me believing that he's going to be focused enough on football in the offseason to come back next year as a quarterback who's improved enough to where he could take this Colts team to the playoffs. So will he come back better? I don't know. But if I had to take a bet on it, I would say probably not. But the Colts could get just a little bit better, go out, make a trade for Myles Garrett, because this defense is going to have to be good this year. No matter who's playing quarterback, like you're not winning games unless you can get stops, especially when your starting quarterback next year is probably going to be Anthony Richardson. So Dre Greenlaw, he's a free agent. I want him so bad. Like I want that guy to be in a Colts uniform badly, because he would just be awesome for this team for a couple of different reasons. Okay, like if Dre Greenlaw wants to come play for the Colts, then the Colts should absolutely sign him for two reasons. First, he's better than EJ Speed, who's also a free agent that the Colts should not bring back. Dre Greenlaw is actually athletic enough to cover guys. Even though he's coming off of this Achilles tear, he played, I believe, 6 games last year, played pretty well in them. Okay, and the thing though that I really like about him, yes, like he can cover, and he's a good tackler, and I think he'd fit well beside Zaire Franklin and all those things. But the thing that I really like about him, and the thing that this Colts locker room desperately needs, is that he's coming from a place where winning is expected. Dre Greenlaw's played in 2 Super Bowls with the San Francisco 49ers. He's had a career where every single year he would show up for the first week of camp, and the expectation is we are expected to play in a Super Bowl this year and win one. That has been the expectation every single year for Dre Greenlaw's career. The Colts haven't had a season where everyone has expected them to win in quite some time. And you need players in your locker room that expect to win. And I just don't think that the Colts have that right now. Because so many of the Colts seasons in recent history haven't been about winning. Last year, what was the season about? Anthony Richardson getting better. Wasn't about making the playoffs or anything like that. His rookie year, it was about him developing until he got hurt. And then it was like, I guess we'll try to win now. The Matt Ryan year, that was supposed to be something special, right? Matt Ryan, former MVP, played in the Super Bowl. Colts are going to be great. But then you watched him play 1 quarter of football, and you were like, crap. Let's get ready for the NFL draft. We aren't going to be very good this year. The expectations dissipated pretty quickly that season. I mean, like, in all seriousness, was Phillip Rivers, like, was that the last time that people inside the Colts locker room and outside of the Colts locker room expected them to, like, legitimately be good? Even the year that they had Carson Wentz, like, he was damaged goods after his time with Philly. Okay, like, the Colts need to get players in the building that don't care about other players developing, that only have one expectation, and that is to win football games. They need players that actually expect to win, because that is an infectious thing. Like, you can see it in college basketball here in the state of Indiana. Purdue expects to win every game that they play, every single one. And I think it's part of why they do a really good job of, closing Indiana out late and closing Iowa out late. Indiana, however, that is not the expectation anymore. The expectation inside that Indiana locker room is not for them to win every game that they play. And that's why they crumple late. That's why it doesn't bother them when they lose. It's why they get blown out from time to time. You have to have players in your locker room that expect to win. Dre Greenlaw has had a career full of that. A career filled with expecting to win. The Colts need players like that in their locker room. So bring him in. Okay? Like, this culture sucks. It does. They need culture changers. And the best way to build a winning culture is to bring in guys who win. That is what I would recommend for Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen and the rest of these guys to do when it comes to signing free agents. Go get guys who actually expect to win. Don't sign guys from the Jets who have been losers their entire NFL career. Don't sign guys from the Panthers who have been losers ever since Cam Newton left. When you draft players, draft guys that won a lot of games. If you want to change the culture, you have to change the players in the building. Go get guys that expect to win. That would be a great jumping off point for the Colts going into this next season. Speaking of expecting to win, both the Kansas City Chiefs and the Eagles expect to win on Sunday night. The Super Bowl, I know who I've got. I think it's honestly a pretty easy decision. For me, at least, it is. Because when you look at these two teams, the Chiefs are better at the positions that actually matter. I'm going to tell you what those positions are and why the Chiefs are going to win when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at renofi.com/notices. Texting enrolls for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop, opt out.
John, I'm putting my foot down. We can't put off renovating this house any longer. Our kitchen is so small. We need to finish the basement for the kids, and don't even get me started on the bathrooms.
Honey, renovating is so expensive. We can't do all those projects.
With Renofi, we can.
What's Renofi?
Renofi loans are a new type of home equity loan only for homeowners doing renovations. We can get up to $500,000 and keep our existing low mortgage rate locked in.
With
Renovai, we can do everything on our renovation list and we don't have to refinance?
That's right. Renovai loans are the only home equity loan that use the after renovation value.
Just what we need. How do we get started with Renovai?
Just send them a text.
Text loan to 323232 and see if you qualify for up to $500,000 to renovate your home with Renovai. Unlock the future value of your home right now to get the money you need without refinancing. Text the word loan to 323232 to get started today. Text loan to 323232.
NMLS number 1802847. Not all borrowers or properties qualify. Loan terms apply.
Hey, Mom, I've been meaning to talk to you about some new COVID information I saw online.
Uh-huh.
I read that black folks like us with certain conditions like diabetes, heart disease, mental health conditions, or being 50 and older, like you, are at high risk.
Boy, you sound like a commercial.
I'm just saying. I know you love your ginger.
Unadulterated sports talk with unfiltered takes. It's the real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
The real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thanks for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. Free to subscribe there if you want to go check that out. Hop in the chat, be part of the conversation. You can also watch over on Twitter at _ Jonathan Smith. Follow me there. You can also follow us at Ticket1430 for all the updates on my show and the Dan Dockett Show, which is on from noon to 3. And you can listen to Dan's show via that Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you get your apps. And you can listen to mine there as well. The Chiefs, Eagles, Super Bowl, it is close. I got to be honest, the excitement level doesn't really seem there. Maybe it's because all this NBA trade deadline stuff keeps happening. As I said before heading to the break, the Bucks got worse. They acquire Kyle Kuzma, and they give up Chris Middleton. There's some other stuff in there as well, but that's the bulk of it. Anyway, Chiefs, Eagles. I'm taking the Chiefs. Simple as that. The Chiefs are going to win. They're going to cover that 1.5-point spread because they're better. They are better at the spots that carry more significance. The four most important positions on a football field are quarterback, pass rusher, offensive line, and cornerback. Those are the four most important positions in the NFL. Both teams, the Eagles and the Chiefs, are good at all four of those positions. They wouldn't be in the Super Bowl if they weren't. But the Chiefs have the advantage at 3 of the 4. And the one that they don't have the advantage at, they're still pretty good at. Okay, Patrick Mahomes is better than Jalen Hurts. I don't think I need to go 12 minutes on this. Okay, like I don't think that I have to explain the difference between Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts that much. Let's just keep in mind, Patrick Mahomes has won multiple Super Bowls, while Jalen Hurts hasn't. Patrick Mahomes has won 2 MVPs, while Jalen Hurts hasn't won any. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback on the planet, maybe the best ever. I don't believe that, but some people do. Jalen Hurts isn't even one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the NFL. No way around it. So Chiefs clearly have the edge at quarterback, which is the most important thing. If you have the edge at quarterback, the odds are in your favor to win that football game. Pass rusher. The Chiefs had the best pass rusher in this game. You're going to hear so much about the Eagles and this defensive line and how they got all these dudes and, the Eagles, man, that front four is pretty tough. Yeah, well, so is the Chiefs. Chris Jones is the best defensive tackle in the NFL. Okay, I know that people love Jalen Carter, but it's because he's the new kid on the block. Jalen Carter, the new shiny toy from Georgia. Oh, I can't believe they got him at 9. Okay, but let's just remember, we've seen Chris Jones dominate games. We've seen him dominate playoff games. We've seen him dominate Super Bowls multiple times now. For several years, we've seen Chris Jones just be absolutely dominant. Now, he never got the credit he deserved because this specimen Aaron Donald was in the league, right? And as great as Chris Jones is, he wasn't as good as Aaron Donald was, which is not a knock. But Chris Jones is the best defensive tackle in the NFL. Okay, we've seen him take over playoff games, and I think we're going to see him do it again on Sunday. He's the best pass rusher in this game. If there was one defensive lineman that I had to bet on to make a huge impact, it would be Chris Jones, because I've seen him do it multiple times consistently. So the Chiefs had the best pass rusher in this game. Their front four in general is really good. Like, they do a great job of generating pressure. Take Karlaftis off the edge. Shout out Purdue. He's been really good this postseason. Okay, are the Eagles, top to bottom, better along the defensive line than the Chiefs are? Yes. But the Chiefs had the best defensive lineman in this game, which is a major nod in their direction. Now, where the Eagles are better than the Chiefs is the offensive line. Okay, like the Eagles have the second best offensive line in the NFL behind the Lions. Okay, the Chiefs have had to move some things around. They've had to make some adjustments. They've got a guard playing left tackle, and they've had to kind of maneuver things around, but they've figured it out. Right, their offensive line is more than good enough to hold up against the Eagles' front four. We saw them hold up against the Texans' front four, which is pretty good. We saw them hold up against the Bills' front four, which is pretty good. Okay, now, this is the best defensive line that they've faced. This is their toughest test, but I do think that this Chiefs offensive line, paired with Patrick Mahomes' mobility, is more than good enough for them to, be fine against this Eagles front four. Now, corner. Eagles, 2 great corners. Okay, like, they're very good on the outside defensively. Darius Slay, been around a long time. He's solid corner. I forgot he's 34. I thought he was like 31. Nah, bro, he's 34 years old. Quinyon Mitchell, he's their rookie from Toledo. He's the guy that I said that the Colts should have drafted this year at 15, and they didn't. But it's okay. He's going to be elite, but he is a rookie. He's never had to deal with the pressure of playing in the Super Bowl. He's never had to deal with defending an Andy Reid offense. He's never had to deal with any of that. Okay? The Chiefs, meanwhile, have Super Bowl champion Trent McDuffie. He's the best cornerback in this game. As great as Quinyon Mitchell is, he's not as good as Trent McDuffie. Jalen Watson has been pretty good in his third year. He missed a lot of time due to injury, but ever since he's come back, the Chiefs defense has gotten better. Okay, both of these teams are good. Both of these teams, at all 4 of those majorly important position groups, are good, right? Like, they wouldn't be playing in the Super Bowl if they weren't. But the Chiefs are better at 3 of them, and that's going to be the difference in this game. Mahomes is going to make a couple plays that Jalen Hurts doesn't. Chris Jones is going to make a couple plays that Jalen Carter doesn't. Right, the corners for the Chiefs are going to do an excellent job, defending A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Nick Bolton, and the rest of this front 7 for the Chiefs are going to do a pretty solid job of getting after Saquon Barkley and all these things. Right, they're just a little bit better at the positions that matter the most. Okay, sure, the Eagles probably have a better roster top to bottom. Like, congratulations, Eagles. You have a better running back than the Chiefs do. Congratulations, Eagles. You have better wide receivers than the Chiefs do. Okay? Congrats. That's awesome. But running backs and wide receivers don't win Super Bowls. They don't. They never have. They never will. Quarterback, offensive, and defensive line play, and good corners. You need those 4 things. The Chiefs have all 4. The Eagles have all 4. I just think that the Chiefs are a little bit better in those areas. Okay. Coaching also has a lot to do with it. And I don't think that I should get any pushback on this whatsoever, but Andy Reid's a better head coach than Nick Sirianni. Like, Andy Reid, if he three-peats, will be the best coach in the history of the NFL. I believe that pretty strongly. He's a better head coach than Nick Sirianni. Vic Fangio, great defensive coordinator. Not as good as Steve Spagnuolo, though. Kellen Moore, the guy who's probably going to be the new head coach of the Saints when this is all said and done. Got to be honest. I think Steve Spagnuolo is going to run circles around Kellen Moore. I don't think that's going to be close. Watching Vic Fangio, the defensive play caller for the Eagles, and Andy Reid go at it, it's going to be a blast. Can't wait. It's going to be so entertaining to watch, but the Chiefs have better coaches. They're better at the 4 most important positions on the field. Like, they are going to three-peats, and that is why. The Chiefs are simply better in the areas that matter. So you have fun with Saquon Barkley and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and all those things. But I'm taking the Chiefs because they have the better quarterback. They have the better head coach. They have the better corners. They have the best pass rusher in the game. Give me the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, we already had one trade go through today. Also, by the way, Kevin Potts coming up here in about 13 minutes or so. He's going to join me. We're going to talk Super Bowl. We're going to talk a little Dre Greenlaw potentially to the Colts as well. But, deals are happening everywhere. The Pacers lost last night. People are freaking out about it. Tyrese Halliburton had a goose egg. It's the most frustrating part about Tyrese Halliburton is he'll just have nights where he's just like, you know what I don't want to do tonight? I don't want to score the basketball. For some reason, always, my thought process was always, scoring the basketball is a lot of fun. He only took 3 shots. It's unacceptable. 3 shots. You're the best player on the team, and you only took 3 shots. Like, that just can't happen. Can't happen. It's unacceptable in every way, shape, and form. Myles Turner returned to action last night. He didn't play very well either. But I think the biggest thing with that and the fact that he played again is that the Pacers aren't going to move him. I find it so funny. Like, every time that I get on Twitter, I see, the Lakers want Myles Turner. Here's a trade to get Myles Turner to the Lakers. Here's how to get, Myles Turner to this team or that team or whatever. He's not going anywhere. Okay, the Pacers have to have him. Clearly. They don't have the depth at center without him. His ability to stretch the floor and shoot the basketball is so important for this Pacers team. He's fifth in the NBA in blocks at just under two per game. Okay? I mean, just doing his thing, protecting the basket. Okay? And the Pacers simply aren't going to find another center that shoots 40% from 3, which he's done so far this year, like Myles Turner is doing. They also aren't going to find a center that's close to the league leader in blocks per game. Myles Turner is doing both of those things. He is anchoring a defense that has been excellent here as of late. I mean, even last night, they lose to the Trailblazers, who have now won 9 of their last 10. They're playing really good basketball right now, and it's, they're fun to watch. Jeremy Grant's a good player. DeAndre Ayton had like 25 and 20 against the Suns a couple nights ago. Never thought that we'd see that again. Scoot Henderson starting to kind of figure things out. He was the number 3 overall pick last year. Shaedon Sharpe, good shooting guard. He's playing really well. Pacers passed on him to take Benedict Mathurin. I remember at the time really pounding the table for Shaedon Sharpe just because of the athleticism and all that other kind of stuff. But really, really interesting. Anyway, like the Trailblazers are a good basketball team. They've been playing well here as of late. All right. So losing last night on the road with a place where the Pacers usually don't win. I saw a stat yesterday. I wish I'd bookmarked it so I could have grabbed it. I think it was Alex Golden who tweeted out something about the Pacers had only won in Portland like one time in the last 10 years or something like that. Like, it's tough traveling to the Pacific Northwest and winning games up there. And Look, the Pacers just had a bad offensive night last night. It happens. Sometimes you don't shoot the ball well. Sometimes you only shoot 21% from three. That's what the Pacers did last night. Sometimes you only shoot 42% from the floor. That's what the Pacers did. Sometimes you just have nights where you don't make shots. The most frustrating thing about that game, though, was the fact that Tyrese Halliburton, the Pacers' best offensive player, only took 3 shots. And it wasn't like he got hurt in the middle of the game and just didn't have the time to take shots. No, he played 25 minutes and he only took 3 shots. Just unacceptable in every way, shape, or form. Other trades that could be going through, I'm hoping that they break during the show. We'll see. The Warriors are calling everybody. They're throwing Hail Marys, just trying to find someone who wants to come to San Francisco and play with Steph Curry. You know, they've called the Magic for Paolo Banchero. They're calling everybody. But what seems to be in the works is Jimmy Butler really wants to go to Phoenix because he knows Phoenix will pay him the max. And Kevin Durant is being shopped. I desperately want for the Warriors to acquire Kevin Durant. And it seems like that could potentially happen. We'll see whether or not it does. We already had one trade happen today. Chris Middleton traded to the Wizards for Kyle Kuzma. So congrats to the Bucks for getting worse. You traded a guy in Chris Middleton whose true shooting percentage on the years is 63% to Kyle Kuzma's 49%. You got a guy in Kyle Kuzma who's a good stats bad team guy. That's what he is. Like, he's the second best player on the Wizards, and so his numbers look good. That's all that he is. I get it. He's younger, and the Bucks needed to get younger, but he's not solving their problems. Okay, the Bucks' biggest issue is that they just aren't very good defensively outside of Giannis. And so they're probably going to play him at the 5 more, which will make them a little bit more interesting. But they got issues, man. No way around it, which is a great thing for the Pacers. Like, teams are desperate when they're like, you know what we need? We need Kyle Kuzma to come in here and save us. The Utah legend. All that good stuff. So, yeah, I've got no faith whatsoever in this Bucks trade turning out good for them. Myles Turner, he's not going anywhere. So if you want to buy a Myles Turner jersey, now would probably be a good time to do so because he's going to be around a little bit longer. Kevin Potts of the Kevin Potts NFL and NFL Draft Breakdown Substack, he's set to join me coming up here in about 5 minutes. We're going to talk Super Bowl. We're going to talk Dre Greenlaw because he's a 49ers fan and he watched Dre Greenlaw all year this year. Okay, so we're going to talk Chiefs, Eagles, Super Bowl, Dre Greenlaw, probably Anthony Richardson, because whenever I talk football, Anthony Richardson always comes up. So, yeah, it's going to be good. Thanks for tuning in. This is The Real Jonathan Smith Show. We'll be back here in about 5 minutes with Kevin Potts to talk a little Super Bowl.
It's time for the real Jonathan Smith Show. This is Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? It's the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Hopefully you're having a nice week. If you're an Indiana fan, you're probably not, because they suck. They're just bad at basketball, but that's okay because the Super Bowl is approaching. You're going to eat a lot of good food, and you're going to watch the Kansas City Chiefs hoist the Lombardi Trophy for the third time in a row, joined by Kevin Potts, writer of the Kevin Potts NFL and NFL Draft Breakdown Substack. He's taking a little break from grinding Travis Hunter tape to come on the show. So, Kevin, I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, of course. It's always a pleasure to come on. We got one last football Sunday for the next 6-7 months, so it's a little bittersweet, but I'm excited for the game.
Man, good. Because, I feel like there's a lot of people who aren't. I was talking to someone yesterday who's down. He's in New Orleans. He's working, and he said there was no one at media days, which is kind of crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, I understand from maybe just the more casual perspective. It's just not the best storylines we've seen the Super Bowl for. Like you said, the Chiefs are going through the three-peat, so maybe people aren't as interested in this part of what's actually going to happen on the field and the game itself. I think we're in for a really good one.
But my thing is, joined by Kevin Potts, writer of the Kevin Potts NFL and NFL Draft Breakdown Substack. My thing is, shouldn't the Chiefs three-peating be a big storyline?
It should. This is a historic achievement that they could possibly do. I just think we're getting the fatigue on them winning, especially since their play style is getting a little bit more boring on offense. And we see it all the time. It happens with every dynasty in multiple sports, is people just get tired of them. I'm already seeing the rewriting of history of that the Patriots are more exciting than the Chiefs, which is just not true. People hated them as well 10 years ago. So I just think it's the fatigue of the Chiefs is the reason that people aren't talking about it enough. And then just general sports media isn't always the best at highlighting the exciting parts of what's coming up and choosing more negative discussions about which quarterback's more elite as opposed to the actual teams themselves.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Chiefs fatigue is definitely a thing. I just don't feel like we had Patriots fatigue when they were on this run. Do you remember having that?
Not really. I've also never been a big fatigue guy, whether it's Patriots or Alabama. When you're watching the best teams do it, I think that's awesome. That is super, super fun to try and see teams do stuff at that level and see what other teams can do to catch up and overtake them, and if they're going to do it. I think there was a lot more pure hatred with the Patriots as opposed to fatigue. But like I said, even looking back for me, trying to be unbiased, it's hard to look back what you felt 10 years ago and actually realize what you felt in the moment.
Yeah, that's totally fair. As you mentioned, though, this game's going to be great. Both these teams are really good, very deserving. I was pulling for the Commanders. I feel like a lot of people were. If we gotten the Commanders in the Super Bowl, I wouldn't feel like the game was going to be very good. But because it's Chiefs-Eagles, I think that we're going to have a great game. Who do you think has a better roster?
I think it's the Eagles pretty much top to bottom, except for the most important position, which is quarterback and then probably head coach. I mean, look at what Howie Roseman has done. People always joke, how did Howie do it again? Well, Howie did it again with the ability to make really good free agent signings like Zach Bond and Saquon Barkley, drafting all these Georgia guys that have now stepped in the lineup and been fantastic. There's really not a ton of weaknesses on this roster outside of maybe right guard. It's a little banged up, and I don't fully trust their quarterback in a drop back game. But I think this is one of the best rosters we've seen in the past couple of years, just top to bottom with the amount of talent they have at every position.
Joined by Kevin Potts, writer of the Kevin Potts NFL and NFL Draft Breakdowns Substack. He's got a link to that in his bio on Twitter at KevinPotts06. So I feel like the Chiefs are better at the really important positions, if that makes sense. Like clearly the Eagles are better at running back and receiver and those things. But as you mentioned, Patrick Mahomes is clearly better than Jalen Hurts. I think Chris Jones is the best pass rusher or just defensive lineman in this game. I think the Chiefs are a little bit better at corner. Not saying that the Eagles are bad or anything like that. I feel like those most important positions, the Chiefs are just a little bit better at. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, we talked especially quarterback and the presence of Chris Jones is the reason you buy into the Chiefs. Because I think if you walk through the reasons why the Eagles should win the game, there's a pretty long list of them. The Chiefs is a little bit shorter, but they're bolded and highlighted and underlined because it's Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and Chris Jones, and that's how they won the past 2 Super Bowls. So you could probably make the argument those 49ers teams were better roster-wise than what the Chiefs had, but at the end of the day, when the game got close in the fourth quarter, you have probably a top 2 quarterback of all time, a Hall of Fame head coach, and Hall of Fame interior defensive lineman to go make those force-multiplying plays to end up winning your Super Bowls.
Yeah, I'm so excited for this game. And you mentioned earlier, the Chiefs have the better head coach. How big of a coaching gap is there between Sirianni and Andy Reid?
I think it's pretty decent. I'm not a huge Sirianni hater, but there is only so much that you do when you're that CEO type of head coach. And I don't think he is like a Dan Campbell or Dan Quinn, where I think he's winning in the margins in those small micro decisions on fourth down and being aggressive in the right time. I think he's just fine in that area versus Andy Reid, who's not always great there, but he calls plays, and he's obviously one of the best play callers in all of football. And then experience matters. Obviously, the Eagles have been here before, but winning multiple Super Bowls as a head coach and kind of knowing what buttons to push with your specific team in the moment, I'm giving a pretty big edge to Reid because I've seen him do it before.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I am, you mentioned Andy Reid being one of the best play callers in all of football. I am fascinated by the Andy Reid, Vic Fangio chess match that we're going to get to see, both with two weeks of prep. How do you think the Chiefs try to attack the Eagles offensively, and how do you think the Eagles try to deal with really just Mahomes and this pretty average group of wide receivers?
I think it's going to be a lot of what the Chiefs have done all year long, and it's that death by 1,000 paper cuts. They're going to try and run the ball for 3 to 4 yards, get those third and manageables, and then kind of let Mahomes do his thing. Like you said, this receiving group is not very good. You're not really going to ask them to go beat this really good Eagles secondary, so it's going to be a lot of manufactured stuff. Getting those design touches to Worthy, getting a couple Hopkins slants, Kelsey doing his thing over the middle. You can see both the running backs, Hunt and Pacheco, get going. I don't think you're going to get a ton of amazing offensive plays from the Chiefs on a down-to-down basis, but I think at the end of the day, they're going to try and be efficient on the ground and through the air and then rely on their superstar to try and make things happen, because I just don't think they have a talent advantage in a lot of spots when they're on offense.
Joined by Kevin Potts, writer of the Whoop. Kevin, did you hear that?
Briefly, it sounded a little quiet. It sounded like an alarm going off.
Yeah, it just does that sometimes. I don't know. Maybe something bad happened, but it doesn't matter because we're talking about the Super Bowl, and that's really what matters. Joined by Kevin Potts, writer of the Kevin Potts NFL and NFL Draft Breakdowns Substack. Man, I had a question I was going to ask you. Yeah, I'm very intrigued to see how those two kind of line up. What I think that's a very even matchup in terms of this chess match between Andy Reid and Vic Fangio. I do not think that Spags and Kellen Moore is very even. I kind of wouldn't be surprised if Spags gave Kellen Moore a lot of trouble just because of how well he times blitzes and all of those things. How do you expect for that matchup to go?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a pretty significant advantage in the Chiefs' favor. And I don't think it's so much with Kellen Moore, who I do think is actually a pretty good offensive coordinator. But when you have Jalen Hurts at quarterback, you're generally running his offense. It was very similar like when Russell Wilson was in Seattle. Even if the offense is good and productive, there's only so many things you can do. So I think it's more Spags versus Hurts, actually. And we've seen Hurts have issues against blitzing quarterbacks before. He's always struggled with Tampa Bay and Todd Bowles. He did play really well the last time these two teams faced in the Super Bowl, and obviously has a lot better run game to lean on. But I do think if the Chiefs can stop the run and get Hurts into these legit drop back scenarios where Spags can throw the kitchen sink at him and really mess with his head, then I think that's where it gets ugly for Philly on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I'm so fascinated because, as you mentioned, like top to bottom, the Eagles roster is better. They have the better offensive line. I would argue that the Lions' offensive line is better. But if you wanted to tell me that the Eagles had the best offensive line in football, like I wouldn't be like, I wouldn't get upset about it. And so I'm so intrigued to kind of see this talent versus kind of coaching of Spags, even though, the Chiefs defense is obviously very, very talented in its own rights. How much of A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith do you think we see in this game?
I think it's probably going to be an A.J. Brown game. I was thinking about this earlier this week because I think matchups are important when you're facing these Chiefs DBs. Trent McDuffie is obviously an all-pro caliber DB, but he is not the biggest. So I would imagine he is more likely to go with Smith, which would leave A.J. Brown on Jalen Watson, who's just freshly back from injury. He's the bigger corner, so it's more of a natural matchup for him. But A.J. Brown on anyone that's not your top corner is obviously a little bit scary with the ability he has to make things out of nothing, contested catch situations, and after the ball. So I think he's probably going to be the receiver of the two. I also think it's going to be a pretty decent tight end day for Philly. The Chiefs have been around middle of the pack when guarding tight ends this year. It was a key point for Buffalo. They obviously did not leverage it very well, but I also think it is another key point for the Eagles. I think Dallas Goedert and A.J. Brown are probably the two pass catchers I'm looking at in this game.
What about Travis Kelce? Because I read somewhere that the Eagles haven't been great against tight ends this year. Obviously, Travis Kelce is Mahomes' guy going back to the start of all of this. How have the Eagles fared against tight ends this year, and what are the chances that Travis Kelce plays a pretty large role in what they want to do on Sunday?
I mean, Kelsey's always a focal point. I mean, he's been around for years. We obviously know how good he is. We'll see what the actual production is, because I do think when you are a guy like Travis Kelce, they're probably going to fixate and try and take him away. The interesting thing with the Eagles is Oren Burks is their second linebacker now because Nakobe Dean got hurt in the playoffs. Do they try and get Kelce isolated on Burks out in the open field? Stay away from Zach Bond. Really try and target that one weak spot on the defense. Like you said, more talented roster top to bottom. But when you're a good coaching staff, can you isolate who that one weak link is in the chain? And I think that would be Oren Burks. And if they can get Kelce isolated on him, I think that's the situation where you see Kelce have that big statistical performance.
Joined by Kevin Potts, writer of the Kevin Potts NFL and NFL Draft Breakdowns Substack. Last thing on the Super Bowl, and then I want to ask you a couple questions about Dre Greenlaw because the Colts are the favorite to sign him this offseason. Pick a non-quarterback to win the Super Bowl MVP for both teams.
Let's see. For the Chiefs, I'm going to go Chris Jones.
Nice.
Like we've talked about, he's just one of the couple guys that really changed this game. And if it's not going to be Mahomes, I think it's got to be a defensive player, and he can wreck that interior. On the other side of the ball, or for the Eagles, I think it's also a defensive guy. I'm going to go Zach Bond. I just talked about how Oren Burks is the dude who's going to get isolated, but Bond's had a fantastic year, one of the best stories in football, and he's been pretty good at making plays on the ball. If he can get that really big pick in a low-scoring game and have that performance where he, quote-unquote, shuts down Travis Kelce, then I think that is the way that we see a defensive player get MVP for the Eagles.
So not Saquon Barkley. That's what I thought you were going to go with.
Yeah, well, I wanted to mix it up. Everyone's going to pick Saquon to be the non-Hurts MVP. I want to give Zach Bond some love because he deserves it. He's been fantastic all year.
Like you said, he's been awesome. Just kind of came out of nowhere as well. So, Kevin, you are a 49ers fan. You've watched all 6 years of Dre Greenlaw. He's a free agent this offseason. If the Colts were to sign him, should they be excited?
Yes, he's amazing. He is an all-pro linebacker. Prior to the injury, he was one of the best linebackers in football, in my opinion. I don't think he always got the national love he deserved because he's playing next to probably a future Hall of Famer in Fred Warner. But he is a complete three-down linebacker. He can cover. He's incredibly fast. He was a big part of the energy for a lot of those defenses. When he got hurt in the Super Bowl, it was a big mental letdown for those 49ers teams because he's such a big part of that defense. He's the heart to Fred Warner's brain on those side of the defenses. The injury is concerned. He tore his Achilles, for those that don't know, in the Super Bowl last year. He basically missed all of last year. He did come back towards the end. He was in and out with some smaller injuries as he got back. But when he was on the field, he was still excellent, in my opinion. There's a couple games for the Niners defense they did really well, including a 9-point showing for the Rams when it was like his first full game back. I still think he is a fringe Pro Bowl linebacker, even coming off the injury. But contract-wise and what you're going to pay him is obviously a question. But in terms of what you're getting on the field, it's pretty hard to do much better in free agency at linebacker than Greenlaw.
Do you know where he played college football?
Arkansas?
Woo pig, baby. That's exactly right. So what's like, if you had to say, like, you covered like everything with him there, talk about how he covers well and, you know, he defends the run. He's a 3-down linebacker, all that great stuff. Would he fit well in this Colts scheme with Lou and Arumo?
Yeah, I don't think there's pretty much any scheme that he doesn't fit into because he is a classic will linebacker that plays off the ball. Every scheme's going to have one of them. You don't really have to adjust anything for him because you don't have to take him off the field on third down. He's incredibly fast sideline to sideline, and he's very physical. So I don't really think there'd be any issues folding him into a scheme. I think only really issues with him is going to be the injury concerns, not anything on field.
Okay, sounds good. I'm excited because, like you said, like I've watched him play in San Francisco for his entire career. He's really competitive as well. Like there are some guys that you watch them play, and there's just something a little extra to him, and I feel like he has that. Do you notice that whenever he's on the field?
Yeah, and the team talks about it all the time too. You could feel it when he was gone this year, and they had to replace him with veteran options or even young options who are just as fast as him. There's not the same type of energy on the field, the same type of faith with everyone else on that defense. And they said when he came back, it was a big reason they felt like their defense was complete again. And it really changes how everyone operates on that defense because he is the heart and soul. I also do think it's a reason that they really want him back. And while he'll have multiple suitors, including the Colts, the Rams, the Lions, despite coming off that injury, because he does the things you can see on the field and those unquantifiable things that you feel in the building that just make a really special leader on the defensive side of the ball.
And that's exactly what the Colts need. They need a little shift in the culture here. And from everything you just said, it sounds like Greenlaw would be a great fit. Kevin, thanks for your time as always, man.
Yeah, man, it's always a pleasure.
That's right. See you. That is Kevin Potts. Check out his Substack, Kevin Potts, NFL and NFL draft breakdowns. It's basically a blog. That's what a Substack is. He does a great job, puts a lot of time into it. So if you want to know who the Colts are going to take with the 14th pick in this year's draft, give him a nice little look. When we come back here in about 4 minutes, it's Wednesday. Let's get over the hump day in honor of Mike Woodson's relentless pursuit of getting the Indiana Hoosiers over the hump, and he didn't do that last night. They didn't get anywhere close to the hump. We'll talk about why when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
Often imitated, never duplicated. The real Jonathan Smith Show. This is Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? The real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thanks for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in. Whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket, if you want to head over there and subscribe, it's free. You can jump in the chat and be part of the conversation. Maybe you're watching on Twitter, __ Jonathan Smith, if you want to follow me there. We stream the show there daily as well. You can also listen via that Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can get wherever you download your apps. Today's Wednesday, which means that it's Over the Hump Wednesday in honor of Mike Woodson's never-ending pursuit of getting the Indiana Hoosiers over the hump.
Uh-oh, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody? Julie, hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me. Mike. What day is it, Mike? Listen, guess what today is?
It's hump day.
Woo-woo! Hump day!
No, as a coach, I gotta get us over that hump. I gotta get them comfortable, knowing that you're gonna be in close games and you gotta make plays coming down the home stretch. I mean, in the tournament, we were right there. I just didn't get them over the hump, man. And that's something that I live with every day of my life. Because I truly believe that was the team to really make some noise and get to the finals, and I just couldn't get them over the hump.
Mike Woodson, just a career filled with trying to get over the hump and being incapable of doing it. We had it again last night. Let's get over the hump. Let's turn this thing around, and don't switch sides when they do it, according to Luke Goody. They just got crushed last night. The game starts out, they're down like 19-4. And I was just like, oh, this game's over. And look, I told you that was what was going to happen. I said there was no chance that Indiana was going to cover that 8.5 point spread. 8.5 point spread. No way no way they were covering that, because they're not very good. And all the players that played well against Purdue probably weren't going to play well once again. Okay, I said that Trey Galloway wouldn't play that well. He didn't, right? The Hoosiers have played 23 games this year. He scored in double digits only 9 times. He's only had back-to-back double-digit scoring efforts once all year. Okay, and he scored 9 points last night. Okay, I told you, he wasn't breaking into double digits because Trey Galloway's inconsistent, and he doesn't play he's not a very good basketball player. McKenzie Mbako had been on a roll, but it wasn't sustainable. Right, scoring 20 against Northwestern, and then 16 against Maryland, and then 25 against Purdue, all on 58% shooting. Like, he wasn't doing that again. He was, water was going to find its level. And Mackenzie Mbako has been very inconsistent all year, up and down. And you knew he was going to come back down at some point. He came back down last night, finished with 15 points. He was 5 of 13 from the field, and he was their leading scorer. Omar Ballo, you should never bet on that guy, ever. I told you yesterday, I'm never betting on that guy ever again. He gets upset. He lashes out at Myles Rice at the end of that game against Purdue. Storms off the floor like a little toddler. I'm not shaking hands, And then he comes out, instead of being upset that they lost and being dominant and responding in the right manner, he scored 4 points. 4 points. Played like 27 minutes, if I remember correctly. 27 minutes. He took 3 shots. He scored 4 points. Come on now. You can't have that from him. And it's the least surprising thing ever. He's a terrible leader, and that's been Indiana's biggest issue all year. He's their best player. He is. And he doesn't care. He's not engaged. He just kind of does what he wants, and that's problematic. Luke Goody wants to be good so badly, and he wants to be a leader, and great for him. You're not good enough to be the leader. Every team follows their best player, and Luke Goody is not that. He had 11 points on 4 of 12 shooting. Okay, we saw the normal Indiana basketball team last night. That's what we saw. A team that can't shoot the ball. They were 7 of 27 from 3. That's only 26%. They are not a good basketball team. They don't have a real point guard. They can't shoot the ball. They don't have a consistent go-to scorer. They don't have defined roles. You aren't going to win games when you don't have any of those things. Okay? I don't know who their consistent go-to guys. Like, you watch Purdue, and hopefully you watched Purdue before you watched that Indiana game. And you know exactly who Purdue is, and every player on that roster knows what their role is. Trey Kaufman-Renn knows that it's his job to score the basketball and to rebound. Caleb First knows that it's his job to rebound and play good defense. CJ Cox knows that it's his job to wreak havoc defensively and apply pressure on the basketball. Braden Smith knows that it's his job to orchestrate the offense and look to score. Fletcher Lawyer knows that it's his job to come off screens and hit open jumpers. Okay, Camden Heide knows that when he comes in, it's his job to play good defense. Okay, Jakari Harris knows that when he's in the game, it's his job to do what CJ Cox does, and that's play good defense. And if you're open, knock the shot down. Same goes for Miles Colvin. And then you look at Indiana. And I've got questions about all of these guys' roles. Like, Malik Renew was their leading scorer last year. They threw him the ball on the block consistently. They haven't done that this year. But Mackenzie Mbako should be the best offensive player on this team, but there are some games where he takes 13 shots, and there are some games where he's only afforded the opportunity to shoot the ball 6 times. Okay, Omar Ballo's role should be give him the ball on the block and let him go to work and let him be your leading scorer, because, once again, he should be the best player on this team. And there are some games, like last night, where he takes 3 shots, and then there are other games where he takes 12. Miles Rice was kind of supposed to be the guy. He was supposed to be the lead point guard, and there are some games where he's orchestrating the offense, and then there's games where it's Trey Galloway. Anthony Leal's role's pretty defined. Play hard. Set the tone. Try to, at least. Trey Galloway's role, some nights he's the lead ball handler, and they're running the offense through him, and other nights they're not. There's some nights where Luke Goody's touching the ball every single possession. And then there are other nights where Luke Goody's standing in the corner, idly, just hoping someone passes him the ball. Roles are not defined for Indiana, and they are for Purdue. And that's a really important thing. And I would say that when you're 23 games into the season, your roles should be defined by this point, and they aren't. Indiana's a bad basketball team that is not coached very well. And then you watch Purdue, and it just cleanses my basketball soul. It just makes me happy watching Purdue play. Especially last night, because the offense was beautiful for both teams, really. Okay, and I said yesterday not to bet on Purdue. They ended up covering, barely. I said instead to bet on the over, and the over hit pretty easily. Right? Because these are 2 outstandingly great offensive teams. And I told you that Braden Smith was going to do his thing, and he did. 31 points, 4 assists, 6 rebounds, 11 of 15 from the floor. He did whatever he wanted offensively. It was an absolute clinic put on by Braden Smith in that game. He got wherever he wanted on the floor. If he wanted the pull-up jumper, he got it. If he wanted to take a 3, he was usually open for it. If he wanted to get to the rim and finish, he could do that whenever he wanted. He just looked like the best player in college basketball last night. And part of that's because the Iowa defense is the worst in the Big Ten. That's why they're 13-9 and not better than that. Trey Kaufman-Renn was really the only offense that Purdue had early. Came out. Everyone else was kind of struggling. So, he scored I think Purdue's first 8 or something like that. Splitting double teams, hitting the little floater, scoring on the block, just doing everything. He finished with 25 points on 10 of 18 shooting. Just really impressive from those 2 guys, knowing that their job is to score the basketball and to keep their team in it offensively. And because they know that, they seek to score the basketball. They are Purdue's 2 best players, and they played like it, and it's why they won. Okay, I told you that Iowa was going to score a ton of points because they were at home, and they're a great offensive team. They shoot the crap out of the ball. They're very well coached offensively. Defensively, though, they aren't very good, and that ended up being the difference in the game. Both teams shot the ball incredibly well. Purdue shot 48% from 3. Iowa shot 37% from 3. Iowa shot 52% from the floor, and Purdue shot 53% from the floor. Both teams were very efficient on the offensive end. The difference was the free throw line. Iowa committed 18 personal fouls to Purdue's 13, so they fouled 5 more times than Purdue did. So Purdue took 5 more free throws than Iowa. And they took 7 more free throws than Iowa. My fault. And they made 8 more free throws than Iowa. They won that game by 9. Purdue's ability to defend without fouling, because only 13 fouls in a game, it's a pretty good number to be at. It's a great number to be at. Their ability to defend without fouling was why they ultimately won that game. Okay, and the more I watch Purdue, the more I enjoy them. They're just a joy to watch. They play good offense. The roles are defined. And they just kind of go with whatever's working. It was a lot of Braden Smith last night, and it was a lot of Trey Kaufman-Rennie because they were just playing really well. Fletcher Lawyer had a little stretch there in the second half where he hit 3 threes, and when he was in the middle of that stretch, they looked to get him the basketball. They just get it, and they understand each other. And part of it's because I don't think they had any transfers this year. Sure, they've got a few freshmen that are playing a little bit. Jakari Harris, CJ Cox, and Raleigh Burgess, I believe, I know Jakari Harris and CJ Cox are freshmen. I'm not sure about Raleigh Burgess. I'm pretty sure he is. But everyone else was here last year, and they know who each other are. They know what they're good at. They know what they're supposed to do. They know what they're not supposed to do, which is probably more important than knowing what you're supposed to do. They are a good basketball team. They're ranked 7th in the country, which feels kind of weird. Feels really weird, honestly. But that's a good team. They scored 90. Just an incredible offensive performance. They rebounded really well, out-rebounded Iowa by 7, which is another reason why they won that game. Just an incredible game from them, an incredible performance from Braden Smith, the best point guard in the country. And, Trey Kaufman-Rennie, man, just doing what he does. When Purdue needs him to play well, he does. He did it against Indiana. He did it in that game against Alabama to start the season, and he did it last night. They needed every bit of his scoring, and it was truly, truly impressive. Big news. I don't know about big. Decent-sized news in the NBA. Kyle Kuzma traded from the Washington Wizards to the Milwaukee Bucks in exchange for Chris Middleton, a guy who's been there for a lot of the successful years of the Bucks. So congratulations to the Pacers. The Milwaukee Bucks just got worse. They got a little bit younger, which is, I guess, a good thing. But Kyle Kuzma's just not a great player. He's a good stats, bad team guy. So congrats to the Bucks. You got worse. Congratulations to the Pacers. You should hold on to that 4 seed pretty easily now, just because the Bucks got worse. And I just, maybe the Magic figure it out here, but, congrats to the Pacers on that 4 seed. Myles Turner, he's not going anywhere. It's going to be great. Now, hopefully some other NBA trades break today. There's rumors that Kevin Durant could be headed off to Golden State. That would be great. Would love to see that happen. But when we come back here in about 4 minutes, there's something else that I would love to see happen, and it has to do with the Colts. I'll tell you what that is here in 4 minutes.
Unfiltered takes live here. The real Jonathan Smith Show. This is Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
The real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Hopefully you're having a nice time. Hopefully you're having a nice week. News of the day, Chris Middleton traded to the Wizards for good stats, bad team guy, Kyle Kuzma. Just not a winning player, okay? If he's the third best player on your team, like he is now for the Milwaukee Bucks, you're not going to be very good. You're not. Okay? You can talk about the Middleton injury and all that kind of stuff as much as you want, but he's still a winning player. He's a guy who does everything that you need, a guy who actually tries to play defense, something that Kyle Kuzma is unfamiliar with. The Bucks got worse. No way around it. But the Colts will hopefully avoid getting worse this next season. That's the hope. Okay, Michael Pittman Jr., he is at the Super Bowl. Some Indianapolis media caught up with him and asked him about Anthony Richardson, just how the season went amidst all the drama and what he kind of hopes for him in the offseason.
AR, I feel like, is taking the right steps, like he's working with people that he thinks are going to help him get to that next level. And, like everything that happened throughout the season, I mean, I felt like he handled everything great, right? Because at times it felt like everybody was throwing shots at him. I mean, like, he's such like a young guy, but the way that he handled that with his professionalism, how he showed up every single day, he didn't sulk. And he showed up and worked. And those are the kind of things that keep me hopeful for him, that I think we're going to see improvement in him, because one, he's just, I mean, like, he wants to be that guy that he knows that he can be, and that guy that all of us know that he can be.
Michael Pittman Jr. right there talking about Anthony Richardson and just kind of his hopes for him in the offseason. Hopefully he gets better. Hopefully this Chris Hess guy helps him improve. Hopefully he learned from all of the issues that he had last year. And, I think that in that clip, Michael Pittman Jr. gives a pretty nice synopsis of the season and just how Anthony Richardson didn't really get it to start the season. That was his biggest issue. He got benched because he wasn't preparing properly. He got benched because he pulled himself out of a game. He then came back and he played better, played the best game of his career against the Jets. Put together a beautiful game-winning drive. It's the best game of his career. Against the Patriots, it was ugly, but he found a way to win. A 19-play game-winning drive. Like, that's gritty. That's tough. We like seeing that from young quarterbacks. The issue is that it just wasn't consistently there. All right, there were some good signs, though, after he got benched, and it's for all of the reasons that Michael Pittman Jr. mentioned. No one wants to suck at anything. No one wants to get slandered by the media. Like, no one wants that. Like, all of these professional athletes, believe it or not, want to be good at their sport. Like, Anthony Richardson wants to be good, right? So he started to show up early after he got benched, and he started to do all the things that are expected of starting quarterbacks in the NFL. There is a difference, though, between the regular season and the offseason. Okay? Like, there is a huge difference. In the regular season, you're around your teammates. You're around your coaches. You're going to see them every single day. And if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, then, like, you're going to get chewed out or yelled at or something. There will be some sort of consequence, like getting benched, like Anthony Richardson was this last season. It's easier to be motivated. It's easier to work hard and want to get better when you have your teammates around you and your coaches holding you accountable. Okay, when you know that if you don't get in early, it's going to result and getting your butt chewed out or benched or whatever, like, it's easier to come in early. It just is. Okay, when you have your teammates around you and encouraging you to do the right things, like, it's easier to do what you're supposed to do. And it's not like that in the offseason. You don't have Quentin Nelson or some other teammate yelling at you when you make a mistake. You don't have a teammate yelling at you when you're loafing in the offseason, because Anthony Richardson's probably in Florida, hanging out with his family and his high school friends. Okay? When you're in, like, during the offseason, like, you were on your own. If everyone worked as hard in the offseason as they do during the regular season, then everyone would come back a better player. I firmly believe that. Right? When coaches are watching you go through drills and you can see your competition for that starting job right in front of you, doing better than you, it just kind of gets you going. It helps kind of ignite a little bit of competitiveness, and you try harder, and the effort is then there. You don't have that in the offseason when you're out there by yourself. And I want to believe so badly that Anthony Richardson's going to come back next year a much improved player. But we haven't seen enough from him to think that. Okay, he cared more about basketball and rapping these last 2 years than he did about playing football. And this is a thing in the pre-draft process that teams usually vet players on. Like, hey, how much do you love football? Do you have any other interests? And look, I get it. These guys are supposed to have lives outside of football. But at the same time, if you want to be great at something, you kind of can't. And the fact that Anthony Richardson, did a rap video and he was showing off his vertical and throwing down dunks, that's a red flag to me when it comes to believing that he's going to be focused enough on football in the offseason to come back next year as a quarterback who's improved to a point where he could take this Colts team to the playoffs. So sure, Michael Pittman Jr., I'm sure that Anthony Richardson learned so many very important things this offseason and all that kind of stuff. But, why in the world would anyone believe it when this guy clearly is more interested in other things? Speaking of other things, Dre Greenlaw apparently favored to sign with the Indianapolis Colts. Dre Greenlaw wants to come play for the Colts, then the Colts should absolutely sign him for 2 reasons. First, he's better than EJ Speed. He's fast. He's a 3-down linebacker. As Kevin Potts said earlier on the show, he can actually cover guys. Colts didn't have a cover linebacker this last year. Okay, I get it. He's coming off of that Achilles tear, but I don't care because he's coming from a place where winning is expected. And if the Colts want to change the culture, then they have to go get guys that expect to win. He's played in 2 Super Bowls with the 49ers. He's had a career where he has showed up and expected to contribute to a winning team every single season, and he just expects to win. And the Colts haven't had a season where everyone expected them to win in quite some time. Okay, you need to have players in your locker room that expect to win. And it seems like so many of these Colts seasons haven't really been about winning. Last year was about Anthony Richardson developing. Forget making the playoffs. Forget winning the division. Now let's just make sure Anthony Richardson develops. The year before that, his rookie year, same thing. Anthony Richardson's rookie year was about him getting better and him developing and him getting reps. But then he got hurt and all of a sudden was like, well, I guess we should win now. Matt Ryan was probably the last time there were legitimate expectations for the Colts to win games consistently. But then you watched him play 1 quarter of football and you're like, well, let's get ready for the NFL draft. This guy's washed. Okay, was Phillip Rivers the last time that people fully expected for the Colts to be legitimately good from start to finish? Even the year that they had Carson Wentz, he was viewed as damaged goods after his time with the Eagles and being replaced. Okay, the Colts need to get players in the building that expect to win, right? So, don't go get free agents from the Jets. Go get free agents from the San Francisco 49ers and all these other teams. Okay, go get players that expect to show up and win. It is an infectious thing. Just the expectation that you're supposed to win every single game. You can see it in college basketball here in the state. Purdue expects to win every game that they play, and it's part of why they grind games out late and they're able to sneak out with wins. While Indiana, I don't think they expect to win every game that they play. It's part of why they crumple late and they get blown out from time to time. There has to be an expectation in the building that you expect to win. And the Colts haven't had that for the past several years. Speaking of expecting to win, the Chiefs expect to beat the Eagles. I expect for the Chiefs to beat the Eagles. But with that being said, the Eagles expect to beat the Chiefs, which is interesting. But, the Chiefs are going to win because they are inevitable. Okay, they just find ways to win, and it's because they're better at the most important positions than the Eagles are. The Chiefs are better at quarterback. They have the best pass rusher in this game, and they're great at corner. The only important area of the 4 most important areas that the Eagles are better than the Chiefs at is the offensive line. That's it. The Chiefs have the advantage in 3 of the 4 most important areas on the football field, and they have the advantage at the most important one, quarterback. Jalen Hurts isn't close to Patrick Mahomes. I don't think I have to explain this one too much, right? Patrick Mahomes has just won multiple Super Bowls while Jalen Hurts hasn't won any. Patrick Mahomes has won 2 MVPs while Jalen Hurts hasn't won any. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback on the planet, maybe the best quarterback ever when it's all said and done. He's not right now. It's still Tom Brady. Jalen Hurts isn't even one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the NFL. It's the reality of it. And when you have the better quarterback, you have a great chance at winning games. Chris Jones is the best defensive tackle in the NFL. I know people love Jalen Carter and what he's done for Philly this year, but just because he's new, right? The new guy always gets a little bit more attention. Chris Jones has dominated the league from the moment that he showed up. The issue is he showed up when Aaron Donald was also dominating the league, so he didn't get the attention that he deserves because Aaron Donald's one of the best defensive tackles we've ever seen. But either way, it doesn't take away from the fact that Chris Jones has been dominant for a long time. We've seen him take over playoff games. We've seen him win Super Bowls. And I think that we're going to see him do it again. He's the best pass rusher in this game, and the Eagles' offensive line, that interior offensive line, is going to have their hands full dealing with him. The one thing that the Eagles are better at is the offensive line. It's the second best unit in the NFL behind the Lions. The Chiefs have had to move some things around for their offensive line, and they're dealing with a good Eagles front four. Like, the depth of the Eagles front four is better than the Chiefs. And they've got good pass rushers. Nolan Smith, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, just like a lot of dudes that are pretty good up front, but the Chiefs' offensive line is still really good, just like the Eagles still have a good pass rush, even though they don't have the best pass rusher, and just like how Jalen Hurts is still a good quarterback, even though he's not better than Patrick Mahomes. The other area where the Chiefs have the advantage is at corner. Now, the Eagles do have 2 good corners. Darius Slay, been around a while, 34 years old. Quinion Mitchell, he's their best corner. He's a rookie from Toledo, and I'm just not going to put my faith in a rookie in the Super Bowl. Just not going to do it. Sorry. He's never had to deal with the pressure of the Super Bowl. He's never had to deal with an Andy Reid offense that's going to be schemed to perfection with these 2 weeks worth of time to kind of figure things out. The Chiefs have a Super Bowl champion in Trent McDuffie. He's the best cornerback in this game. Jalen Watson, back-to-back Super Bowl champion. It's his 3rd year in the league. He battled an injury early, but ever since he's come back, this secondary for the Chiefs has gotten better. The Chiefs are better at 3 of the 4 most important positions on the field than the Eagles are. Okay, quarterback, pass rusher, corner, offensive line. Coaching has, a lot to do with winning games as well. Obviously, Andy Reid's a better head coach than Nick Sirianni. Vic Fangio, great defensive coordinator. He's not Steve Spagnuolo, though. Right? The Chiefs are just better in the areas that matter, and that's why they're going to 3-peat. Great. The Eagles are better at running back and wide receiver, and Dallas Goedert's pretty good. You know what doesn't win Super Bowls? Running backs and wide receivers. They do not win Super Bowls. Quarterbacks, head coaches, pass rushers, corners, offensive lines. That is what wins Super Bowls. So great. The Eagles have Saquon Barkley, and great. The Eagles have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and all those things. Fantastic. But the Chiefs are going to win because they have Mahomes, because they have Andy Reid, and Chris Jones is going to make a couple more plays than Jalen Carter or whoever the best pass rusher is for the Eagles. That is going to be the difference in that game. I guarantee it. Give me the Chiefs, -1.5, hoisting their 3rd Lombardi trophy in a row. Can't wait for this game. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. Can't wait to see can't wait to listen to the Dan Dockett show today as well. He's coming up here in 5 minutes. John Sciambi, play-by-play guy for the Cubs over at the Marquee Network. He's set to join at 1 o'clock. Jim Jackson, college basketball commentator, he's coming on at 2 o'clock. Just a nice, loaded show. Dan will be live from the Super Bowl, so we'll see who all jumps in with him as well. I don't know if he's doing the show from Radio Row or not. Either way, it's going to be just a blast on Dan's show today. He's live. He's in NOLA. It should be a blast. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to my show. Make sure you head over to YouTube, Indies Sports Ticket. Head over there. Subscribe. It's free. Okay? It's free, which is great. And I think if something's free, then you should jump all over it. And it's not like it's free with a winky face and then you have to pay for it later. No, it's free right now. Go, subscribe, hop in the live stream tomorrow, comment in the chat, do all those things, be a part of the community that we're building here. Make sure you can also watch on Twitter at __ Jonathan Smith. Thanks again for taking the time out of your day to listen, and I'll talk to you tomorrow starting at 10 a.m. The Dan Dockett Show comes your way here in about 5 minutes.